Okay.
But hit record again, obviously, for you.
All right. Here we are.
We're back.
We're back, man. It hasn't seen you in a while. I gotta shake off the dust and really stick something in my ass because I'm a little down here. I'm just kind of whatever.
Oh, you're depressed because you just got back from Ecuador?
I don't know why I'm depressed. I'm just a little down. You know, sometimes you just have depression. It just hits you, and you're like, "What are we doing? Who cares?"
I had it last week. Maybe because we didn't do our pod. I had it last.
Yeah, it might be.
I got really depressed last week, but now I'm on the upswing.
All right.
I'm feeling pretty good. I guess it rotates, you know.
Maybe you can grab me and pull me out. I don't know. I talked to my
mother
earlier.
I'm never happy enough to take anyone out of it. Just happy enough to make people feeling depressed feel upset about it. But it's kind of funny. You went to Ecuador. We both treated the pandemic very differently. You went to Ecuador, and I went even more safe. I got vaccinated. So
that's amazing. So I saw your tweet. I thought it was a joke. So should I start taking some swings at this vaccine here because you and Canner both have it? Is it a Jew thing or what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't actually. So according to my BMI, I'm like obese by 1 pound. I didn't actually have to get a note. That's a joke, but I had it ready in case they asked me, and they didn't ask me. Which, like I told you, is either they didn't care or they just saw me as so fat that like they didn't need to say anything. But I'm assuming they just didn't care. So maybe you could slip in there.
Well, I think because New Jersey, I think it was you and I that talked about this maybe, or maybe it was someone else. I don't know. But New Jersey, you can get it if you're a smoker, which I heard is their way of saying, hey, if you want the vaccine, come get the vaccine.
Right, because you can just say anyone could say it. Yeah, right.
I smoke cigars.
Well, that counts. Then go to Jersey.
Yeah, maybe I'll go over to Jersey and get this vaccine.
I feel better than other people. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I can't imagine you're someone that's had that feeling very often. I mean,
very rarely. But now I'm looking at you as like a lesser citizen right now. Like I have like higher, like a sci-fi movie. I have like higher status. You're like the other group in the time machine, the people underground, you know?
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess it's my depression, but this is hurting my feelings. Like it's bumming me out. I'm like, all right, dude. Well, fuck off. You know.
I mean, you're non-vax, vaccinated. You know, but
that's true. But my whole family is vaccinated. My parents, my sister, every single member of my family, and they said only 6% of the country has received both shots, and like everyone in my family has, and it pays to have salt of the earth, you know, douchebag family.
Yeah. I'm my parents have had it, and then me. That's it. No one else. Everyone else, just my elderly parents and their obese son. But everyone else, I'm not like, isn't that like it is crazy? Like I'm not just delusional. It is crazy that I'm considered obese, right? Or is it not?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but no.
Jesus.
It's
I gave you a very easy. You should have just said, of course not. I mean, I gave you a very easy.
Well, I'm saying I don't know the term obese. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know what that means. If a scientist says you're obese, I mean, I wear a mask because they say to wear a mask. If they say you're obese, then you're obese.
Do you think it makes sense that I technically am in the same category as those 600-pound people on those TV shows? That I'm closer in their category than your category.
I think I'm much morbidly. They're morbidly.
I'm
obese.
Gleefully obese. I'm very.
Well, the idea that you're close to my category is hurtful to me.
I'm closer to you than the TV guy. Like, would you see me on? Like, you think I'm so fat? Like, I'd be on TV. Like, look how fat this guy is. Like,
no. Well, you're like, and I don't want to hurt your feelings or offend. I don't think of you as a fat guy, but it's like my term '90s fat. Like George Costanza. There's a million.
I'm George Costanza fat. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like all these jokes about being fat, and then they show him shirtless. He looks like a strong guy.
Well, you know why? Because him and me have the same shit. We got a fat head. All our fat goes straight to our head. We're bobbleheads.
Yes, you do have a chunky head, but yeah, your body just looks normal. You look like a normal, regular guy.
Thank you.
American, a normal American.
Normal American. Thank you. That means a lot. You do too. You're probably overweight in the BMI. It's crazy. The whole
My
thing
BMI, I've tested, it's like 22 or something last time I looked. I got a solid BMI.
Oh, that's really good. Mine's 30. That seems so much farther than yours. Mine's 30 and like morbidly obese is like 32 or something.
Oh, geez. Well, no, you're fine. You're vaccinated now. That's exciting. I mean, I would feel so good if I was vaccinated. I went down to Ecuador. By the way, Ecuador, every single person has a mask, indoor and outdoor. It's weird being in a country where they got hit hard, and they're just like, yeah, I guess we're doing that. Like outside, because when I'm outside, I wear it around my my Adam's apple because I don't have a chin, but I I walk around, I'm like, you don't need it outside. But
Yeah, which I think
they're
is
like, what are
true.
you doing, you fucking white maniac?
Really? So it's super safe there. I thought Ecuador. I don't know anything about Ecuador. I'm dumb American, so I just assume it's a third world country that's completely fucked up. But I guess we're the third world country in this situation.
Yeah, I think it's just regular world, whatever. But anyways, we're gonna lose our fans
I
again.
know. All right, yeah.
All these people are gonna be livid that we wear masks. And we're gay.
Well, we're gonna get them back on this episode. We're gonna at least
Yeah.
I'm gonna get all the people who've called me a cuck and a libtard and all the other shit. I'm trying to choose my words carefully on this one because I'm afraid I'm gonna get canceled. Like I gotta choose my word. I've been trying to like not. I want to not like say anything too fucked up.
Yeah, well, for the fans, no problem, and nobody that's not a fan is gonna watch this ever.
Right.
So I don't think you can get canceled. But I already know what you're referring to. I think.
Well, I mean, let's jump in. We're doing current movies. We're taking a switch. We're doing current movies. We've all been going through childhood films of me shitting on his favorite movie from when he was 6 and still defending it loyally to this day. And like, but we're taking a switch. We're doing current movies because a lot of movies in the last couple months came out, and I hope some people have seen them. But the movies we're talking about today are Promising Young Women.
By the way, none of these people have watched any of these movies. I can tell you right now, based on how often we're getting called cuck liberal fags, there's no way they've watched any of these movies. Maybe Sound of Metal, maybe. But even that's going to be tough.
Are you saying the guy who called me like a liberal homo last week hasn't seen Jesus and the Black Messiah yet? Are you saying that? They haven't seen
Judas and the Black Messiah.
Judas, yeah, or One Night in Miami. Yeah. So we're talking the movies that came out this time. I mean, my big issue, and I guess I'll say something that I'm pissed off about is I think a lot of times, and we'll talk about specifically movies, a lot of times movies that have social issues like civil rights or feminism, people are afraid to critique them because they think they'll be attacked for critiquing the movement itself. So they can't critique the fucking movie. And those are two different things. There's the movement and then there's a movie. It's still a movie. And you can critique it like you can critique Schindler's List is a movie. You can critique any of these movies and it's not critiquing the actual movement. And the amount of like every fucking one of these movies, the amount of like Rotten Tomatoes, not one bad review, suggests that critics are legitimately afraid to critique some of these movies because of, I don't know, people being outraged. And I think it's a stupid thing. I think it's condescending to the movements themselves.
I agree. And I'm so glad to hear you talk about this and hear other people talk about this because I've been saying this for like 10 years now. Yeah. Like every time these movies come out, Selma is a movie that like it should be an Oscar nom and whatever. And it's like a made for TV movie. I'm like, this movie's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
It's a made for TV movie. And it's a movie like, how do I say this correctly? It's movies that are just there to honor someone aren't necessarily that great. You know what I mean? Selma, I guess, falls into the biopic category a little. And pretty much every biopic that honors someone sucks. The only biopics that are good are the ones about pieces of shit, like Raging Bull, People vs. Larry Flint, Ed Wood. Those are the great biopics because they're about great characters. But any movie that comes from a place of honoring someone is already limited in that sense. And really, it's hard for that movie to really be any good on any like deeper, challenging level.
I agree. Like Bohemian Rhapsody, I thought was like a piece of garbage. It was so bad. But again, it was like, but it's about a gay AIDS fella. So we have to be like, oh my God, it's amazing. And the amount of people that I respect that were like, that movie rules. I was like, is this a joke? Are you fucking with me right now?
Well, it's like, what's the point of it? I don't know. It's just like, these movies can't really examine the person in an honest way because it's ultimately even the musician movies, they all like Ray and Walk the Line, they all kind of show that they can be assholes at times, but ultimately it's just a jerk off piece. You know what I mean? And like Raging Bull is clearly not honoring him. You know what I mean? It's not the Jake LaMotta, achievement movie. So like that's a great movie because it's like free from I feel like great art can't come from a place of just honoring, you know?
Right. And there's other ones too, like the NWA movie, which was like fine, but people were like, this should have got Best Picture. And you're like, Best Picture? What?
Yeah. And it's also like, it's it's once again, it was like made by people in the NWA. You can't have the guy be involved in the movie. Like,
Right.
that's like total like fucking mythologizing on their own, you know?
Yeah, it's goofball. So I guess we should just dive into One
let's
Night in
dive.
Miami then.
All right, we'll start with that. Well, because this movie got like rave reviews from every fucking person.
98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
98%. By the way, it's gotten to the point, and this is going to get me canceled if anything, but it's gotten to the point where movies about civil rights are so always reviewed so highly that if it gets less than 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, it's basically unwatchable. Like, it has to be above 95%. You can't, they're not being critiqued in a fair way. Like, One Night in Miami got pretty much the whole thing, one great review after, which, by the way, no movie should get all great reviews. Like, movies, that's a problem in itself.
Well, I mean, Raging Bull, it would be weird to read a bad review. I know your fucking lady that you like, Diane Kale, or the fuck her dumb name is. But she didn't like Raging Bull because she's a twat.
That's now. At the time, it got bad reviews. All great movies get like some divisiveness to them, at least on some level.
I suppose so.
Like, this movie's already being treated like a legend where you can't criticize it. You know what I mean? Like,
we're about to.
We're about to. Well, it's fucking, look, there's issues about it that are interesting, but it's fucking stilted as fuck. It never, at no point to me, did it feel like anything but a play.
Yes. Well, first of all, almost every movie, it feels like, that starts off as a play is a little bit hokey. I mean,
it's so hokey.
I think, what's the one that everybody loves? Glengarry Glen Ross has like the great scene, the Alec Baldwin monologue. But other than that, it's very play-like. It's so overrated. I had heard so much about Glengarry Glen Ross that I was like, this is going to be one of my favorite fucking Goodfellas. I can't wait. And I was like, what? It's just like fine.
There's always some staginess with these movies. There's always some like staginess to it. I think Glengarry Glen Ross actually does a pretty good job of not feeling as stagey, but I also think the problem with this is not just that it's a play, but it's also, I think, so I think it's a bad play.
Right.
Like, I mean, I think it's everything bad in a play where basically the kind of play where you would think at one point, if you haven't seen the movie, it's about the time Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Jim Brown.
No, not Martin Luther King.
God damn it.
No, let me take over. You're going to get canceled for that. It's Sam Cooke. It's Malcolm X. And then it's Wesley Snipes and Willie Mays. And Michael Jordan.
Mike Lee and George Washington Carver. No, it's
no, I got it. It's Sam Cooke, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, who at the time is Cassius Clay, and
Jim Brown.
And Jim Brown. Yes. The four of them are in a hotel, which I don't know if that ever happened. Did that really happen?
It did happen, but
okay.
I'm pretty sure it happened, but they didn't just seriously express all their ideologies and take turns expressing it in the room for 5 hours. I mean, first of all, Jim Brown is still alive. So he's probably watching that movie going, none of this fucking happened.
He's like, fuck this shit.
I actually forgot that Jim Brown's still alive because like the movie's kind of like this. Let's imagine what actually happened in there. There's someone who was there. You don't have to imagine it.
Right. Well, here's the interesting thing, too, that I kept thinking about this. There was a movie that VH1 did. It feels like a VH1 original where they were like, what if John Lennon and Paul McCartney got together? Did you ever watch that?
No. Wait, what do you mean if they did get together? What are you talking about?
No, later, like in the late 70s. It's like before Lennon get gone. Can you imagine if those two brilliant musicians created a band together?
What the fuck?
What it would have been like.
I thought we were in that movie for a second.
By the way,
yesterday.
I wanted to do a bit about, it was called something like that. Is this a funny bit? The idea, I remember reading about John Lennon, George Martin talked about how John Lennon was always like really jealous of Paul McCartney's songwriting abilities because he would write all these like beautiful hit ballads. And it is really funny when you imagine Paul McCartney coming in and being like, hey, Jude, do, do, don't. And then John Lennon's like, cuckoo, ka-choo, cuckoo. It's really funny to me of him like, I am the walrus. Just being like, good work, John.
All right. Anyway, terrific. Eleanor Rigby. Yeah.
It's just
boy.
really
so John Lennon was jealous of McCartney's.
Yeah, because he was writing like "Let It Be" and
Yeah.
all these great, and obviously Lennon had great songs too. And ultimately, I prefer Lennon's
I did.
post-Beatle career.
I prefer it too. Yeah, but I guess he originally had a lot of the. Did he do the Yellow Submarine?
No, that was Ringo.
Did he do the all the octopuses in the garden?
That's Ringo also. It sounds like you hate Ringo.
Ringo does a lot of children's songs.
Yeah, he's a child guy. I mean, he also did "You're 16, You're Beautiful in Your Mind," so he's got a lot of children's themes.
The one where it's like, she was only 16, if you know what I mean.
That I think was Lennon, or it might have been McCartney.
Like,
I think it might have been McCartney.
If you know what I mean, you mean rape? It's kind of a funny. He's like coyly hinting at just, bizarre.
It means
thing.
she's hot. She was hot.
Yeah, you're right.
His heart went boom. But okay, but anyways, so
VH1. Oh, the magical. Yeah.
So they made a movie where Paul McCartney and John Lennon got together in late 70s, and it was actually fun. It was like a fun movie, and you're like, oh, this is interesting, and they have the dialogue, and it's hard.
In that movie, he doesn't get shot, or is it like once they broke up, but before he gets shot?
I think it's like 1978, or I can't really remember it. It's probably on YouTube. I'm sure someone listening has seen it a million times, and they're in like silly little pink round glasses, and it's obviously a guy pretending to be John Lennon. But they're at the Dakota, and it's just a 90-minute movie of them like, what if we did this? And it ends with like, all right, so we're gonna get together and play some music, lad.
Right.
But it basically was that. It's a VH1 original, is this movie, and it's so hard. I always say this, to pull off movies about people who we are very, very familiar with, because you're like Dustin Hoffman can play Lenny Bruce because Lenny Bruce has been dead for 40 years, and there's only little grainy black and white footage of him.
Yes.
But Ali, it's a lot harder to pull off because we fucking know the guy.
We know the guy. We've seen the footage, and it's just like it's hard to even judge it. The acting seemed goofy to me. Ali, he seemed kind of like it seemed like an SNL sketch.
He was the worst one in the movie.
Hold on a second. My roommate's let me just see if I can get my roommate to be quiet for a second. He's like,
this is great.
The hallway.
I think there should be a running theme where there's just a really Jewy thing that you do. Like, you're like, let me try to quiet some people down. Let me take a shit. I got to take my pills. We really do have a nice recurring theme of Raanan doing something. Like, he's like, let me crunch some numbers real quick. Let me, clean the drapes. I just like the idea of every episode you have to leave to do something extremely Jewy.
Well, this wasn't Jew. This is just my roommates talking about trying to get me kicked out of here. But
I mean, quieting someone down because they're too noisy feels a little bit.
Oh, that's Jew.
A little bit on point. I mean, now I'm just being racist. I'm gonna get canceled.
I should have leaned in. I should have got you to hear from the hallway. But can you keep it down?
Wait, they're trying to kick you out of your apartment?
Nah, I'm joking. They're just having a little discussion.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, wait, what we talking about?
Ali is the worst. The actor playing Ali is the worst one. I actually think the guy playing Malcolm X was pretty good. And I thought the Jim Brown guy was pretty good. Those two were good.
Yeah, I thought they were really good. I thought the Malcolm X like played it a different way. We saw this like shyness and this kind of like diffidence in him that was kind of interesting. And the movie definitely deals with his own internal conflict in a good way. But yeah, Muhammad Ali was it's tough because you know the legends. And then you're like, this movie is trying to show like what the legends were like behind the mask, right?
Right.
But it doesn't really. They're all kind of still wearing the mask because it's a theater show, and they're all just like kind of saying who they are the whole time. So they never really take down the masks.
Yeah, and it felt like the guy doing Ali, it felt like, I mean, I've seen Ali not talk like that. Like he's kind of like
all the time. Yeah,
you come over my house and you do it. And I'm like, and also, it doesn't feel like they would have hated him.
Yes,
like,
they would have been like,
shut the fuck up.
You're not on camera before a fucking fight. Take it down a notch. Yeah, he's too on. It's like annoying. Like he would have annoyed them. There's so many. That's the problem with it being a play. If it was real, there's so many things that you would want them to say. Like number one, I'd want at some point one of them to be like, hey, isn't it weird that we've all just taken turns getting really emotional tonight for no reason? Like, isn't it weird that we've all just cried 5 different times without any kind of, no one died. We're just hanging out at a hotel and you've cried 3 times giving a monologue. I've cried twice. Isn't that bizarre? So yeah.
Well, it was interesting because we were texting that same day. I watched Mike Leigh's movie, the British filmmaker, Secrets and Lies, which feels like this is like, it's like the antithesis of this movie where it's 7 people talking at once, talking over each other, interrupting each other, and it just is. It feels like someone put a camera on a wall, like a hidden camera, and watched a dysfunctional family. And this feels the complete reverse of that. It feels like I can feel a guy holding a boom mic underneath a guy pretending to be Muhammad Ali.
You never at any point get lost in the movie. You never at any point aren't thinking this is a play. You know, and maybe in theater it could kind of work because on stage it's different. It's like a little more metaphorical. People are kind of like, theater isn't real. It's not supposed to be real. So when you're watching it, you can kind of suspend your disbelief. But movies feel literal. So when you feel them in the apartment, it makes it so glaringly awkward that they're all taking turns.
Right.
They're all just clearly taking turns, having like a speech about who they are, and it's like. It's just awkward to watch. And the fact that no one brings this up in any review, no one can even just, the fact that they can't even mention, you know what, the movie deals with interesting ideas, which it does, interesting ideas about Black artists and Black celebrities and what is their obligation in society. And, you know, can Sam Cooke's version of things is that its own kind of Black autonomy? Is it its own way of fighting the system? It brings up interesting issues, but not one critic feels comfortable or whatever to just say fucking hokey. It feels like a goddamn play the whole time.
Well, and also I think part of this too is not just that it's a civil rights movie, it's a Black movie. It's also directed by a Black woman.
Yes.
And so that even trumps the subject matter, I think, is that beyond the subject matter, if Regina King directed a movie about fucking 4 white guys playing checkers,
yeah,
we would not criticize it because it's a Black woman, a beloved woman's first film.
Which is not, that is not like anti-racist not to criticize her. That's condescending. It is patronizing to her. It is racist to treat her differently. You're treating her differently. And maybe in a, you know, it's like, yeah, she's a great actress and she's making her first film, but like, the material sucks. The material sucks. It's a bad play with was also bullshit. The ideas are kind of interesting, but also kind of bullshit. Like the Sam Cooke thing, right? Like when Malcolm X is criticizing him, right? For like just being like a whatever, just like pleasing people, shallow shit.
Playing to white people.
So he plays a song of Sam Cooke's that Sam Cooke came out with to show how like shallow it is. He played a song, I believe it was what is it called?
Darling, you send me.
It was
honest, I do.
It was like one of his earlier, like kind of like, you know, bubbly songs.
You send me.
Yeah, you send me. But it was from 7 years from before he recorded. Like by that point, he'd already done Chain Gang.
Right.
Bring It On Home to Me, which are deep songs that aren't fucking shallow. They have like references to civil rights issues, chain gangs. They might not be like super overt, but they're powerful songs. Those songs had already come out, but they couldn't show that song there because if Malcolm X would have been like, look how shitty Sam Cooke is, and then he would have played Bring It On Home to Me, everyone would have told Malcolm X to shut the fuck up.
Yes, and then so there was, and we texted about this a little bit. Like I push back a little bit, like where I do think I think the opening is horrible. The boxing scene is embarrassing. Like it's so embarrassing. Michael Imperioli, who, as a credit to Scorsese and the script of Goodfellas, is perfect in Goodfellas. Every scene I've seen him in Sopranos. I hate Sopranos. I think Imperioli sucks.
You're out of your mind. He's incredible in Sopranos. You're out of your mind.
I watched the one where he's on heroin. He has to kick heroin, and he's like pretending to be on heroin, like sleeping and like walking around, like what? Who? It's
not weed. It's heroin. Fuck.
I know, but he doesn't look like he just looks like a goofball. He's like, it doesn't matter. I don't want to get into the Sopranos. It sucks. But so he's terrible in this movie. He's playing Angelo Dundee. He's got a big rubber nose on. He just is flat and terrible. The fight scenes are so bad. Ali's in the corner with that, like, oh, doing this like dumb thing,
like jumping around.
And you can see there's not enough extras. There's like 6 people standing there. It's so bad. But I did think there was a moment when first of all, they're on the rooftop. They're all standing like diagonally apart. It's so staged and silly.
So staged.
But there was a couple conversations towards the end, about 20 minutes period, where they were having that conversation where he plays the Dylan song and Cooke is pushing back, and they're both making pretty good cases against each other. There was a moment watching that movie where I was like kind of disappointed. It wasn't as horrible as I wanted it to be. The first 20 minutes were like laugh out loud. The depiction of Sam Cooke bombing at the club when the lady's like, he starts singing and the lady immediately is like, what time is it? She's like tapping her watch and then he knocks over the mic stand. It's like,
and then 4 people immediately just stand up when they see black.
yeah, and it's comically silly, but there was a chunk, maybe 30 minutes in the movie that I was like, this is not as comically bad. Like there's a moment that it actually gets okay, and there's some decent conversation going, and the other actors I think are good. The Malcolm X guy I think is very good.
Yes, and I agree with you, and I don't think I think every critic and every person who's responding to this like it's a masterpiece. I feel like it's not like they've created from scratch. There are important issues in the movie, especially about like what is a black artist's obligation, and like Sam Cooke's point about like him creating autonomy with his records, is that not me contributing to the civil rights movement? You know what I mean? There are some interesting issues there, but even those issues, I think on some level, I want to see a movie where I don't want to see what the movie's saying. I want to see what the characters are saying in the movie, you know?
Right.
And I feel like the movie does kind of, even though Sam Cooke kind of makes a point, I feel like the movie does kind of create this binary world where Sam Cooke was just a complete shallow artist. And then he heard a white man sing Blowing in the Wind, which is pretty like white supremacy. And like, why can't you do anything like this? They see a white man singing Blowing in the Wind. And then he's like, I'm going to do songs that have depth now. And it's like, that's not true. He was already doing songs that had a lot of depth. So like Blowing in the Wind made him go into and it wasn't just Blowing in the Wind. He heard Blowing in the Wind. He also got kicked out of a place that he's performing at that really kind of inspired him to write Change is going to Come. But it's like, it wasn't so just like he was like a shallow guy and then suddenly he did this music. And that's what the movie simplistically, almost to me, makes it look like Malcolm X kind of proved that he was right in the end. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, which by the way, they do reference that song in the movie. They're working on the Chain Gang.
I know. And it's like Malcolm X saw him do a song that's really deep. And I mean, I know it's not like, what do you call it? I mean, I know it's not like an openly but it's still talking about prison.
Yeah. It's not a Pete Seeger, but
yeah, but you know what? But that's kind of the interesting thing about this movie, because like I feel like a lot of movies, they demand to be preachy right now, like instead of being just great art. And it's almost like Malcolm X is like demanding he be really preachy, like this movie is. You know what I mean?
Right.
The movie and Malcolm X are kind of on the same page, where they want everything to be really preachy and confrontational. And Sam Cooke's like, can I just make great art?
Right.
As a black guy, I'm a human being. Can I just make great art? Which he was.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's the best. He's my favorite. But and I thought that's where I thought it did get interesting, where he was like, we're getting paid. We're getting the residuals, and my friend's getting paid, and now we're all getting paid, and it's black people getting paid. And I thought that was a really interesting dialogue.
That is interesting, but I think it's manipulative that this movie chose to play a song he recorded like in the very beginning in that scene. And then another song that he didn't even write, the Sentimental Reason song. I thought it was very manipulative to play those songs to make him look like a shallow guy, as if everything was so shallow just before Change is going to Come, which is kind of a bullshit narrative that actually really affected his legacy. A lot of people don't like see him as someone who's like real shallow and then just came out with Change is going to Come. And that's not true. He had deep songs with a lot of gravity.
Yeah, and that scene was cheeseballs too, and it did give this wink that like, thank God for Malcolm X, because we wouldn't have Change is going to Come,
which is bullshit. That's not true. Of course.
And the way they depicted it too on the Tonight Show was so silly, with a guy pretending to be Johnny Carson, and then like it was just silly as those moments of like, I'm going to sing one more and try this on for size.
Well, a lot of times it became, I want to make 2 points. So the first point, I think what became complicated about it is that Sam Cooke heard a Change Dylan song, right? And he was inspired to, at some point, he actually covered it, and then later on he wanted to write his own song, right? But so they have Malcolm X hearing Blown in the Wind and going, why don't you do something like that, right?
Yes.
But then they have Sam Cooke later going, I'd already heard Blown in the Wind, and I had been working on a song. So they don't want to take away the truth, which is that it was Sam Cooke's idea.
Right.
So they want to have, but now it's awkward because it's just weird that two people heard that. Like, Sam Cooke heard Blown in the Wind, was like, I gotta do a song like this. But then Malcolm X also heard Blown in the Wind. It was like, you gotta do a song about this. Like, it's just kind of weird that they're both on the same. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do see what you're saying, and it's just silly, and I hate this kind of movie, honestly, of like, here's a conversation that happened or it didn't happen. It's just a little silly. I'd rather have fictional characters having this conversation.
Right.
Take real historical figures, have a conversation that we're not sure that they had.
Which I'm sure Pat Brown could just Pat Brown, Jim Brown. I'm really making good points, but I'm fucking it up just by the names.
No, you're nailing it. But yeah, no, it's silly and it's ridiculous that it's this well reviewed, and it'll probably get Oscar nominations, which is really just goofy.
It's insane. And just one last thing, because I know we got to move on. I think at a certain point, the movie felt like those annoying comic book origin story movies where they're like, "Ooh, this is where Han Solo got his whistle or whatever." Like, and then you're like, "No," later on, "Ooh, Han Solo," like, they reference shit. This is where Batman learned, whatever. And I thought I'd have a good example there, but anyway. It's kind of like that where they wink at shit in this annoying way where like Malcolm X is like, I was hanging out with a writer and everyone's like, you hate writers, Malcolm. And he's like, this guy was a brother. We're working on a book. Like, you're like, ooh, Malcolm X, written by Alex Haley. You know what I mean? Or like,
right.
Or when Sam Cooke's like, yeah, Blown in the Wind, it really did affect me. I actually have been working on a song. Like it's just like, we're watching the origin stories of these legends. And it's like, don't make a movie about legends hanging out at a hotel and have us feel like no different about them. Like there's still those legends. We don't feel like the mask was taken off at all.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely silly, and it's just ridiculous that it has the best reviews. It has the reviews of fucking, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I had to literally I was just curious. I dig through all the reviews. There was one bad review on like the 40th page of Rotten Tomatoes by the KKK Times. And I hate that I have to no, but it was like the Minnesota Star Reporter or something. But it's like, it would be funny if there's just one like racist.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't think it was KKK Times. I thought maybe it was like the fucking,
the Iron Eagle or
yeah, the whatever.
But I don't know what it is. I don't know if it worries me. It's annoying that we're treating movies like this in a condescending manner,
Yeah, no, and here's the thing that I always talk about with like the woke SJW culture thing is that I don't even blame these reviewers, because if they review it, they'll be the ones that get fucked. They'll be like, look at this white man criticizing Regina King and her movie. So I get it's not even their fault.
Which happened? Actually, let's use this as a quick segue. Can we talk about Promising Young Woman?
Sure. Yeah, please.
Well, here's a segue. Also, I mean, not as good reviews, but also a lot of good reviews. One guy did have a criticism. Carey Mulligan got really angry.
Yes.
And the fucking newspaper apologized on the critic's behalf.
Yes. I heard about this.
Can I read what he said? I wrote it down.
Please. I heard about it.
So he put, where is it? Mulligan, a fine actress, seems a bit of an odd choice. What if I was just like, Mulligan, this fucking cunt? No. Mulligan, a fine actress, seems a bit of an odd choice as this admittedly many-layered apparent femme fatale. Margot Robbie is a producer here, and one can, parentheses, perhaps too easily, imagine the role might once have been intended for her. Whereas with this star, Cassie wears her pickup bait gear like bad drag. Even her long blonde hair seems to put on, right?
Okay.
Now, I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't even know what that means.
He's saying, I think on some level, Margot Robbie has the femme fatale sexiness that makes more sense for luring men.
Right.
While something about Carey Mulligan is, her in the femme fatale role seems a little awkward. Like the outfits don't seem as make sense as much on her. Like they feel like weird on her. I disagree with that. I mean, I don't really. Yeah, I guess I disagree. But the point is, Carey Mulligan to me was like, he's calling me ugly. He's saying I'm unattractive, and it's super sexist that he would do this. The newspaper apologizes for him, which is such a fucked up thing for a newspaper to just throw their critic under the bus. And the critic is like, I'm a 6-year-old gay man. I'm not like attracted to women. Like he's like, I'm not, it's like, and I'm not saying gay people can't be sexist, but like, I think it's silly that you like one fucking critique that maybe she isn't saying that maybe she isn't naturally the best casting for a femme fatale is not sexist to me. It's just like an opinion, you know?
Yeah, first of all, I think gay people are really sexy, but yeah, that's like just your opinion, man. But no, by the way, I thought she's too old for the role also. Like she's so much
Imagine
older.
if you were a critic.
She's so much older than Bo Burnham. Like right when he walked in, I said that immediately before I knew about this criticism, but she's in the movie and all of a sudden Bo Burnham was like her classmate. And I'm like, what? He and in real life, he's 5 years younger than her, but he looks 10 years younger than her. He's like a baby face, and she has that neck that I think is sexy.
I think
but
she's
it's
one
like
of the most beautiful
veiny.
women ever.
No, she's attractive.
She is
but
attractive. She's like gorgeous.
She does not look the same age as Bo Burnham. She looks considerably older than him, which maybe because she's
but
a
Bo
victim
Burnham
of
looks he looks like he's 12.
Exactly, but that's how casting works. It's not about like that's how you cast people. Like I mean,
I guess you could, but you could just be like they miscast Bo Burnham.
Sure, yeah, okay, sure, definitely, yeah. Like
I feel like at that point you get rid of Bo Burnham, not Carey Mulligan. You know.
I guess so, but there was a reason I thought that I can't remember. But
do you think she felt older than the other people in the class?
I can't remember, but that's the pairing, and they look fucking way off in age.
I get what you're saying, that if someone pointed that out as a critic, and then like everyone came out and you fucking think she's old, it's like you're allowed to point out shit about casting. That's just the way. Like casting is about people's looks. Like you can't be like.
That's what I just said to you.
Well, yeah, right. Well, once I say it out loud, it sounds profound, but like no, it's true. It's like you can't. And then they had a whole review of this woman about Queen's Gambit, that the woman in it is way too hot, right? And of course, no one cares about that because she's saying the woman's too hot. But like, if you're allowed to say that, you could also essentially say a woman isn't the right fit for this. You know what I mean? Certainly. Or, you know, and I think the fact that he's just saying that maybe Margot Robbie, I think what he's trying to say is Margot Robbie kind of does the like blonde bombshell, sexy idiot thing, luring the men thing better with all the makeup and all the outfits. And maybe she seems more of a, I don't know, like a natural kind of beauty, or more of, you know, not in that role as much. I disagree. I think she's great in the role, but like, I just think it's scary that you can't even a critic can't even make a point without a newspaper apologizing on its fucking behalf. I just think it's ridiculous. And I think this movie, I don't know, you actually liked the movie a lot.
I liked the movie. I thought it was good. It's, first of all, I want to say, we said this before off air, it's hard to do these reviews because I need to see a movie several times, unless it's a big piece of shit or just like masterful. A lot of times I watch a movie, it depends on mood or whatever's going on, and I'm like, that was great, that was fun. Like I remember watching Begin Again, the Mark Ruffalo music movie. Did you see that one?
I did see that. Was Keira Knightley?
Yeah, and it was Sunday night. I did a full week with John again. We're like, let's just go to a movie, whatever playing. And then we saw that and we had some fun. And I was like, this is great. And I was like, that movie's really good. And I recommended it to someone. They're like, this is the biggest piece of shit. And I'm like, maybe you're right. I don't know. We had fun. It was Sunday night at the movie.
That happens so much. You watch a movie without expectations. And then because you didn't have any expectations, you fucking love it. But then as a result, you overhype it to the next person. And then they come in with way too much expectation. They're like, this fucking sucked, you know?
Another one was the Ryan Gosling movie, the Twin Pines, the Killing of the Sacred Pines.
Beyond the Pines or something.
Beyond the Pines. I watched that movie and I was like, this is like the best movie I've seen in 10 years. And Gary Gulman is like still mad at me, being like, wow, you fucked me on this.
By the way, real quickly, the Begin Again, did you notice at the end of that movie, it's a very weird, I'm pretty sure it's that movie. It's a very weird thing where it ends, it goes into the credits, and then they start showing some additional scenes from the movie, but they're like really crucial scenes. Like it kind of has like an important ending. Like after the credits, he like kind of gets with her again. Like during the credits.
Remember.
You might have left, you know?
Yeah, probably. But anyways, I watched the movie.
Without expectations.
I enjoyed this movie. Well, I did have expectations. I expected it to be, because I didn't hear about it at all. I kind of remembered seeing the trailer after, because the trailer was out in movies a year ago.
Right. And I have to bring this up because no one's brought this up yet. Does the trailer not make it look like she's a serial killer who's killing all these men she's luring in?
Oh, that's right.
That was the whole marketing. And then
that's a good point.
And then you watch the movie and it turns out she's not. If you haven't seen the movie, I got bad news for you. It looks like she's like luring these men by pretending to be drunk, bringing them home. And as they're about to rape her, she goes, I'm not drunk. And then you think for the preview, she's killing them, which is awesome. Yeah. And instead it turns out she's just giving them a talking to. Like it's the lamest fucking just like marketing ploy where you think you're watching something much different.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. I do remember that. Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer and being like, okay. So, anyways, I went in and Sarah had kind of warned me because I forgot about the trailer. And she was like, yeah, you might hate this movie because I feel like it might be like hit over the head, fucking like, you know, this is men are bad, the white guys are the worst, and women are strong, whatever. And so I was kind of expecting that, but I thought it was pretty well done. I thought I liked the style of it. The stylization was really, I thought, cool and fun. And there was some funny stuff in making fun of these guys. That opening scene at the bar with like the three bros. I was like, I do know and hate these guys. And I did think it was pretty interesting. And I don't want to jump to the end, but like it did have a plot twist that I thought I did not see coming, and an ending that I thought was really satisfying. And pretty good. And there was a moment though where I hated it. Like in the middle of the movie, I dipped and I hated it. I hated Bo Burnham's character and thing. And I was like, okay, great. She's gonna get through. He's gonna get through to her. Whatever. There was things I hated about it, but ultimately, I did think it was an entertaining movie.
It is very
that was pretty
entertaining.
clever. It was pretty fun.
So I guess my response is almost like a combination of what Sarah said to you and what you said. Like I agree with both those. It is a movie that's just kind of just saying all men are awful, you know, and not just that. They're just saying men are even worse than you think, right? So I do think it's pandering in that sense, but it's well structured. It's filmed in a very vibrant way, and it's well structured. And there's some pretty cool, like, you know, twists. That being said, it's the kind of movie where every other fucking line is making a point.
Right.
And I hate that kind of shit. I hate that kind of shit because it's like the movie's like trying to teach you a lesson half the time. And it's like movies that make a point, it's okay for a movie to make a point, but typically that point is really obvious. And everything in this movie is shit anyone with half a brain fucking knows. It's nothing even like the Me Too movement has some complicated nuance, but no one in this movie's not existing in the world of Me Too. Like she goes up to the dean because the dean, like her Cooke. Can we talk? I guess we have to spoil it, right?
Yeah, we have to spoil the movies. We're spoiling all the movies here.
Yeah. Sam Cooke gets shot. Sorry to spoil it. And Malcolm X. Sorry to spoil that.
Yeah.
So her friend was raped in medical school, and by another classmate. They brought up the allegations. No one took it seriously. They both dropped out. The friend commits suicide. Now she gets drunk and brings men to her place, and then really shows that she's sober and gives them all a talking to, and they're all different actors from TV shows. And so she goes to the dean, and that dean is like not existing in the Me Too world at all. She's like, you didn't take these allegations seriously. It's like, you get all these rape allegations. You can't take them all seriously. Like no dean in this world today would ever just fucking say that.
Well, here's where I'll push back on that in a couple of ways. A, it could be pre-Me Too movement. I mean, why couldn't it be 2015?
Is it?
I mean, certainly it could. I don't know.
I guess I just assume movies are current unless they tell me they're not.
No, I guess, but like, I don't know. You could suspend some disbelief. Maybe in this world, fucking Me Too didn't happen or whatever. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief of like, okay, there's not Me Too. And also, I would say, because I hate all the woke shit to hit you over the head with the stuff, but for the purpose of this movie, couldn't we say, well, this is about a school that didn't take it serious? Because certainly that has happened a lot. I mean, if you read John Krakauer's book, Missoula, it's like there's a million of these cases similar to this.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm like, maybe this is about that. Because I have the reverse when I'm defending all these wokesters being like, there's not any black people in this movie. There's no women in this movie. And I'm like, well, this is a movie about white men. Why can't we just have
black
a movie?
People in this movie about one guy on the moon?
Right. But it happens. And I have that take where I'm like, well, okay, well, this is a movie about an older guy and a younger woman. This is a movie that there's no black people in. Woody Allen's movies aren't about black people. Go watch a different fucking movie.
Or I love it when comics have like criticize an open mic. There's only white people at this open mic. It's like, or only white men at this open mic. It's like, it's an open mic. Anyone can go.
Right. Exactly.
So you might as well go, like an elevator opens. Like there's no black people in this elevator. That's bullshit. This elevator is racist. Yeah.
So to be fair, so to my point is, I have the same point with those things, just reversed. This is a movie about a bunch of piece of shit guys. Not every guy, but all the guys in this movie happen to be pieces of shit, which, by the way, I've met groups of 30 people and they're all pieces of shit. There
True.
are a lot of piece of shit dudes. Some of them are listening to this. They keep calling us Nazi. I mean, not Nazis. The
Most of
opposite of
the
Nazis.
Most of the people listening to it. Yeah. No, it's true.
Um,
You're right. But I guess I get the sense in the movie that it seems like every man in it is kind of like, even Bo Burnham, like kind of the point, like even the nice guys are pieces of shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not against saying men are pieces of shit. I guess what I'm against is a movie pretending to be challenging when it's not. Now, I get that the movie has some interesting twists, and it seems like you appeal to the twists, and I do think they're cool. But everyone's like, this movie's brave, but it's the kind of thing where, like, if everyone says a movie's brave, maybe it's not fucking brave.
Oh, I certainly don't think the movie's brave.
Well,
I definitely don't think that.
I feel like people are like, it's bravely showing misogyny. This is saying something everybody fucking agrees with. Like, it doesn't actually get into anything complicated. Like, no one, like, but people do say it's brave. And that's the thing. It's like, if a movie is really brave, most people would hate it, or a lot of people. Brave means people hating it.
Well, so that's more of a critique of the critiques then.
I guess I'm coming from this whole episode. I guess that's a little bit of my theme. I don't think the movies themselves, like, I have issues with the movies, but I have a lot of issues with people's view of the movies. But I think that's always been me. If no one liked Forrest Gump, I'd probably be like, whatever. It's a movie about a mentally handicapped. You know what I mean? I wouldn't like, a lot of my feelings deal with things being overrated.
Don't forget, we have to say retard at some point.
I was about to.
Yeah, because we gotta stick at 10 for 10. But so it sounds like your issues are more with the reviews. But I certainly don't think this movie is brave. I think it's fun and entertaining. I think it's like I thought it was a pretty good movie, and I am willing to go there. Again, there are a lot of horrific, misogynistic, abusive piece of shit men. So I'm like, all right, this is a movie about those men. Just as there's plenty of movies also about men being really reasonable and heroic and wonderful. They're not made as often these days. But,
I don't know why. Yes, you can't say that. And to which I would say, fine. But I guess I'm not interested in a movie where just everyone is a cartoonish piece of shit. I guess I think I like to watch movies to find out humans are complicated human beings. And it'd be interesting to see. And a movie like this isn't trying to just be like it's trying to be a complicated story, I think, on some level. And to me, it's like, I'm interested in movies where it does show like a guy did something horrible, but also maybe he's not, maybe there's other things in his life and he's complicated and there's nuance. And it's challenging. I don't know if you saw the morning show on Apple News, but it's about a Steve Carell's a morning show type guy who gets Me Too'd. And it's a complicated story where, like, he's an asshole, but he's really charming. And Jennifer Aniston is the co-host, and she still is good friends with him, even though he did this horrible thing, and she doesn't know what to think about that. And these are the complicated issues that I find interesting. And I think this just takes a simplistic view of everything. And I think the Me Too movement is so important and so vital. But like a movie that just takes the simplicity of all of it. So you go in, you don't learn anything by the end. You're like, yes, men are awful. You're not challenged. You're not questioned. It's just reductive and it's just simple.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I think of the movie. I'm like, that movie to me feels like a popcorn summer blockbuster movie that happens to be about Me Too. To me, it's not trying to be a nuanced, interesting, or maybe it is. And I didn't come in thinking that. I don't think if I read someone be like, this is brave, nuanced, they really nailed the Me Too.
I guess movement. I've read like 42. I didn't
read any reviews.
Yeah, well,
I just watched it. I'm the reviewer.
You would be angry if you read like every review is like brave and controversial and provocative and
right. So that's silly. And if they think that they're wrong, and I would agree with you if I read those, but to me, it's like a popcorn action revenge movie that you sit there and you drink your Coke and then you're like, aha, I see, that's fun.
Yes, as that movie, I'd still say it's annoying because every other line is trying to prove a point, which clearly shows it's trying to be deeper than that. Like, it's clearly like trying to make a point almost in every moment. But like, I also think if it was more of a violent Quentin Tarantino thing, but the fact that it's not even that like cartoonish, I mean, the shit she's doing isn't that, she's not a serial killer. She's just giving them a talking to. So even though the movie stylized, there's some believability there,
Yeah. And I also agree. I hated one of the parts that I hated was that, like, Bo Burnham is this really sweet guy and he's like represents the good guy, which I was annoyed by that idea. And then it twists a little bit where he's part of the thing, the rape. But then what annoyed me is that just seems like I thought it was still going to be a little more nuanced, where here's this really nice guy, but 10 years ago he happened to be there laughing, and I was like,
nope.
that is nuance. And then when she confronts him, he's like, "Fuck you, you cunt."
Yeah,
That's when I was like, "Wait, what?" So
there's
he
no
is
nuance.
a bad person?
Yeah, it's just saying all men are bad, which is like, I'm not even disagreeing. It's not interesting to watch. It's like, it's boring. It's a boring thing, and there's no nuance to the movie, and and like, she is just, the scene with her and Connie Britton, the dean, is awful because like she's just like teaching her a lesson for the. It's like this movie's like a stylized PSA half the time. You know, it's like that's not what great art is to me. Great art is about characters and about psychology and about shit being complicated. It's about shit being complicated and sometimes contradicting the ideology you already have. There's ideology and there's art. And art is like life, and it should be complicated. And movies now are being edged into just showcasing ideologies and not having the character development and not having the psychology or the relationship. There's no real good relationships in this movie, or complicated. She just breaks up with him and he's lying, and then there's a plan at the end. I think movies now are lacking in character development and just trying to preach a safe point.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with all of those things. I just thought this movie was
take my sweatshirt off.
Fun and stylistic and interesting and funny at times. But yeah, certainly we are moving in the wrong direction with film. And
headphones.
I said certainly we're moving in the wrong direction with film, because I mean, I always use it as an example. Like in 1972, the #1 movie at the box office was The Godfather.
Right.
And in the last 10 years, it's fucking Mega Man 6 and Superboy 2, whatever the fuck. So I agree with that. And obviously I would enjoy a more nuanced film, but that's not what this film is. This is, to me, a blockbustery movie. I didn't realize all these people were saying this shit about it that obviously is fucking stupid and puts it in the same category with One Night in Miami.
I would say the director would hate both of us right now, because I feel like the director would be like, fuck you, Joe, this is a deep movie, and fuck you, Raanan, I didn't fail at it. You know what I mean? I feel like,
yeah, that's great. I mean, they can hate us, but I thought,
well, I'm just saying the intention of the movie, I do think, was to be deep and provocative and brave. I think that was the intention. That it failed.
Yeah, well, they fucked up. Yeah, they stink. But I think a more nuanced thing was, and again, we're just giving away the movie. So like, it turns out there's a recording of this rape, and then she hears the voice of her current boyfriend there, and he's laughing, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And I thought it was gonna be, he's there, he kind of laughs, he doesn't really participate, but he's there, and he feels this awkward thing, and then he's like, now it's this thing of, can he get redemption? Can he be like, that?
Which would have been interesting. Which would have been
that would have been interesting. But instead, he's immediately like, well, fuck you, you cunt, you dumb bitch. And that was disappointing. I was like, oh, gay, but this is stupid. But the final sequence, I did think was fun when she gets her revenge. It was a fun, revengey, fun scene, which with a really fun plot twist, which we might as well just give away now anyway. Yeah. So just giving away the whole movie.
So there's a crazy plot twist where she goes to the frat of the guy who raped her friend, and she changed the guy who did it to a bed, is gonna carve her name into the guy's stomach. And then the guy breaks free and kills her, which was crazy. I mean, it was a crazy plot, like to the point where I didn't think she was dead at first. Did you think she was going to come back? Like,
absolutely.
It was a legitimately great, and that's why I think people are relating to this movie. It was a legitimately great twist.
Yes, and there's fun little film things where they have a shot where she ties him to the bedroom, and it's shot from behind where he's behind bars.
Yeah.
And it's a fun little foreshadow. And also when he kills her, they have a shot from the ceiling. You think she's probably not dead, but she is dead. She's posed as Jesus, right. You know, the ultimate sacrifice. So it's a little maybe you could argue that it's hokey, but there is a fun.
No, it's
like here he is behind bars, and here's her as Jesus. So she's making the sacrifice,
and she has to martyr herself because no one else cares. She has to martyr herself to have this like reckoning, but like. Yeah, no, I thought it was a legitimately good twist. Just, I knew it was a good twist because I didn't even believe it. I'm like, clearly she's like just faking it. So she dies. And then when they're at the funeral, basically she had sent a letter to one guy so he could like call the cops to arrest everyone in case she died. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it is a little too perfectly timed out. Just that Bo Burnham gets the text right as the police are driving up.
Yeah, no, but that's what made me say, oh, this is like a summer blockbuster popcorn thriller. Like everything works out perfect.
And have that cool song. That's also great. I forget what. Yes, the ending is really fun, but I guess for me, I do think the movie's trying to say something, and I think it failed. I think it could have gone deeper, and yeah, I just think. But I agree. If you look at it just like a fun popcorn movie, I guess, yeah. Even though I think the first half is just kind of still boring and preachy and annoying,
Yeah.
but maybe it's also possible, just to open up this possibility. Maybe we're just asshole men who are just being like, we deserve redemption. You know what I mean? It's hard to say where our biases.
Yeah, I mean, I would put you in that category. I'm saying it was fun and good. I don't know why I'm getting
Well,
dragged
but we
down
were
into
both
this.
like, not every man is evil. Maybe we're just trying to defend ourselves. But I do think ideologies aren't great for movies. I just think so we both basically agree that the movie's ultimately not brave and shallow. You essentially just can like it as that.
Yeah, and I'm going to take the hardcore stance of saying not all men are evil for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Martin Luther King,
huge percentage of good. Yeah, we have to name all black men. Yeah, and gays.
Martin Luther King, Malcolm X,
Elton John is very good.
Who's a good straight white man? Oscar
Oh,
Schindler,
Jimmy Carter. I mean,
Jimmy fucking Carter.
I think he's like a saint.
Yeah. Jimmy Carter. Yeah. And I mean, Oscar Schindler. I mean, I feel like even he's more. I mean, he saved all those Jews.
Yeah, he did a good job. He was a womanizer. But whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, we got two more fucking films here. We're an hour in.
Yeah.
So I guess we should move into now the other black one, Judas and the Black Messiah.
Well, don't say it like that. Then we're really
the other black bullshit. Well, this movie, we haven't talked about this one.
I don't even know what you're gonna think.
I don't know what you're gonna think, but I watched it last night. This is another one that has. I couldn't believe this. One Night in Miami has 98% of Rotten Tomatoes. This movie has 96%. So lower rating.
Right, which is crazy.
One Night in Miami, which I thought was shocking. But this movie is directed by a person who's only directed their second movie called, I already forget, Shaka King, who directed some movie called Weed, something about weed, The Weedables or something. So I don't know where this person came from, but I thought this movie was pretty good. There's some huge flaws, I thought, in the movie, but ultimately, I thought it was entertaining and fun, and again, like really stylized and cool. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good, and there was some great performances. That guy Daniel Kaluuya, I don't know how to say his name.
Amazing.
He is fantastic. He's probably going to win an Oscar for this supporting actor. And the other guy was, I thought, really good too.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. This is light years ahead of these two other movies in terms of none of that annoying preachiness, none of that fucking like. I mean, there's preachiness, but it's not. The movie itself is not annoying. It's like jazzy and fun. You know what I mean?
The music is great.
The music is great. It's jazzy and fun. It's like it's really entertaining, and I think the acting is incredible in it. My biggest flaw with the movie, and I think it's a pretty big flaw ultimately, is they don't go into Lakeith Stanfield's head psychologically at any point.
Exactly.
And I think that even though the movie's entertaining, I think it robs the movie of any real emotional core.
Yeah, and also this is now the telling of his story. It's going to be difficult to make a second movie about this guy.
And he's ignored it.
It leaves him out. Yeah.
The informant is the character. He's the one with the conflict. He's the one with the betrayal. And Donnie Brasco, I don't want to show a white movie that did it better, but like in Donnie Brasco, like he has feelings for Pacino, but he has his job and he's conflicted, and you see that internal conflict. You don't see the internal conflict here to the point where you have no idea where he's coming from. They don't show anything in his life. You don't know if he has family. You don't know if he has anyone.
Right. And what's shocking about that omission is the film opens with him talking about it.
Yes.
It shows him getting interviewed, and he's like, well, I just trusted. I forget exactly what he says, but he's like, I trusted the guy, the Jesse Plemons character. He's like, he made me feel trusted, and he manipulated me, whatever. They start with that. And then they never really show it again. It's very strange.
And even more interesting, I mean, not more, but on the same level, at the end, they show another clip of him from that, where he says something really fascinating, where he goes, yeah, I mean, I was in the struggle. So clearly he like saw himself as part of the struggle. And it's like, isn't the point of a movie to kind of get us to understand that on some way? By the end of that movie, I was like, I feel like I could have just watched a documentary. Like it didn't get into his head to the point where I'm like, what is going on? Like, obviously he doesn't want to go to prison, but how does he justify this? How does he feel conflicted? How does he get involved? At a certain point, they kind of suggest he's getting caught up in it, but they don't really go into it. They just show him like, looking like intense at a meeting, and then ugly Matt Damon sees it and like mentions it later. He's like, I saw you were getting kind of swept up in it, you know?
The best line ever, Fat Damon, is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Who said Fat Damon?
I don't know. I think it was a roast joke, or it's just online. Sarah said it to me, and it's the funniest thing ever. Jesse Plemons is Fat Damon.
I feel like such a hack. I've been saying ugly Damon. I mean, ugly Matt Damon all these years.
But also the Martin Sheen as J. Edgar Hoover is like laughable. It's like this really fantastic movie, and he's playing J. Edgar. I can't believe how bad it is.
Well, at a certain point, it's like, if you're gonna spend like 40 hours of makeup to make this guy look like J. Edgar Hoover, maybe get someone who just looks like J. Edgar Hoover. Like, maybe the fact that you have to spend all that time suggests you've miscast it.
Yes, it feels so silly. And I almost felt like maybe this is like a crazy theory. It felt to me like maybe, I don't know, I'm probably way off on this. They wanted it to seem like Giuliani. Like he looks more like Rudy Giuliani now. Like maybe they were trying to be like, huh?
Maybe
this is like kind of like Giuliani, because it felt like that, like over the top, fat Nosferatu looking guy. I felt
like I was watching a Dick Tracy character.
Like, exactly. I said the exact thing.
I guess a lot of people in Trump's cabinet kind of do look like Dick Tracy characters, where like the evil in their soul is expressed on their face.
Right. It just felt like, what is this? And it was like all the Black Panther stuff was great. How do you say the guy's name? Daniel Kaluuya?
I don't know.
Kaluuya? He's amazing. I love him in Sicario. I love him in Get Out. I love him in this. He's like fantastic.
Actor. One of the best.
Tremendous. And all of those scenes, and his girlfriend is great in this movie. And that when he gives that speech in the room and they reveal Jesse Plemons is there and he's like, I am a revolutionary. It gets me like pumped up. Like, this is like fantastic filmmaking.
Incredible. Yeah.
And then they just cut to fucking big Martin Sheen, like as a goofball, and all the scenes, Jesse Plemons stinks. That scene where he's at the house, and I'm like, this is wild. Where he's like, you want some whiskey? I got that good stuff. And he's like, how much money do you make? And he's like, pretty good money. Pretty good. It turns into like Curb. It's like, you can't believe how bad it is in an otherwise fantastic film.
Well, I also just feel bad for Martin Sheen. The man has like a year left to live. He's going to spend half of it in a makeup chair with the fucking shit on his face. Like, quit wasting that man's life. Get someone who, like, I think, yeah, the Rudy Giuliani thing, I think maybe accurate, or I think even just on a simpler level, like the idea of like the simplicity of having someone evil on the inside look evil on the outside, and just have him look, but it's just, it makes it a lame character. Cause like even the part where he's like in the office with him and he's just like, these black people might be dating your daughters, and he's just like,
horrible.
And it's like, he's playing it like he knows he's a villain. Like that's not how people act. People aren't like, people aren't like, let me whisper in my office because I know what I'm about to say is evil. They're like, he seriously be like, this is a problem. We got to figure it out. I'm a good guy. People think they're good guys.
Exactly. That is the worst scene in the movie. Maybe the worst scene in any movie ever. It's just so forced. And that's where it's like preachy of like, look how evil this guy is. And also, by the way, I might add, nobody fucking knows what J. Edgar Hoover looks like. Nobody watching a movie in 2020 is familiar with what J. Edgar Hoover looked like in 1968. You could have any guy. You could just get you to play him. They just go, okay, I guess that's what J. Edgar Hoover looks like. It's not like they're casting fucking JFK. Who the fuck knows what J. Edgar Hoover looks like?
And Daniel Kaluuya doesn't look exactly like Fred Hampton. Like, they don't all look like the person. It's like somehow they're just like, all right, and obviously with J. Edgar, he has to look exactly like the person to every single detail. It's like, why? It's just like, people won't believe it if not.
No, and that scene where he's like, what are you going to do when your infant daughter comes home with a black guy? And I'm like, what is this? It's just a moment of like, we got to really make sure J. Edgar Hoover's racist. And you're like, no, we figured that out by the let's tap the Black Panther Party and take him down.
And also it's like, the way he just presents it like he's bad. It's just so silly. Like, they have that cliche conversation first where it's just like, how are your kids? Like, he knows he's about to say something really evil. It's just so stupid. That was stupid. And yeah, I mean, and I also think Stanfield's a great actor, the one who played the informant. I think he's amazing. I
agree.
And I wish they would have done something with his, because he's so great at physically showing this he's always slumped over. He's so great at like physically showing guilt in his body. You know what I mean? He's such a great actor, such a great physical actor that like, I wish they just made him the main character, like, and
Yeah.
actually dealt with it, you know?
No, but it was entertaining and fun, and like I said, it looked fucking really cool. That opening scene before he robs the place
Awesome.
is really well done, and like I said, the music was amazing, and the guy Daniel whatever just fucking really steals the show, and like it made me like I was really into. I was taken into that world of like, yeah, let's feed some fucking families and socialism, yeah, like it
Yeah.
was really good. It did a good job of taking you into that world, but yeah, it's a disservice to not get more into the psychology, and all the FBI stuff was really, really bad.
Yeah. I mean, I guess even though I do think it is so much better made than Promising Young Women or One Night in Miami, I guess I think it ultimately comes to the same problem where they're sacrificing character and psychology for like kind of a message always. And I don't think they're completely mutually exclusive, but like they're sacrificing character a lot of times, or they're just glossing over it. And so the movie, even though it has powerful ideas and it is a crazy story that's true, ultimately there's no emotional thing I'm latching onto at the end. Besides, I mean, obviously I'm moved by the story of oppression and how awful, but you know, at the end of the day, you want to latch on to this character and what he thinks. And you don't see that at all. And I think what they should have done, no insult to the Lucas brothers, who I believe wrote it actually, by the way. Do you know that?
That said story by, but
Yeah,
two other
which
guys
is weird because the
writers.
story is a true story.
Yeah, now I feel bad. I just reminded me that I'm like, oh, this is weird because we're getting this weird territory where we're like, Jermaine Fowler is in it, and the Lucas brothers made it, and now we're criticizing a movie that our friends
They're
made.
not going to watch it. Yeah, but anyway, I do think, like, if the movie would have began from the present tense of him being interviewed by the Eye of the Prize documentary,
Mm-hmm.
and then as he's being interviewed, you hear him answer questions, and then it flashbacks to things in it. I think that framework would have created an ability to kind of show him internally more, you know,
Right.
instead of him just being in the shadows the whole time. And last thing I just want to say, just in further evidence about how critics can't openly talk about this, the New York Times, great critic, at one point he literally in the review goes, they don't really get into Stanfield's motivations or his character, and then it just goes, but maybe that's the point. It's like, no, that's not the point. That's not the point. It's bad writing. It's the first draft. It needs to be developed. But even that, it's like you can't even criticize. You have to act like that's like maybe the fact that it's a bad character is
right.
Is really just don't get mad at me. And it's like you're creating a bad world because you're creating a world where only movies where you're treating people like victims, you're treating artists like victims. And I'm not saying obviously some people love the movie. I'm just saying like the fact that no one even criticizes any element, which you should do for all movies. All movies have problems.
What's the problem with Goodfellas?
You never really, the violence never really affects you in any kind of way. But
yeah, no, I win this argument. But
okay. All right, fine.
No,
maybe
but
not every movie, but not every movie. But I'm just saying, like, you can still examine movies in a way where you're not just only praising it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, certainly. And again, human beings have a negativity bias or whatever. It's more fun to talk about the negative. So it is like we're criticizing. I mean, the first two movies we didn't love, I guess, but this movie I did love the movie. I just thought these were like glaring.
I can't love a movie
problems.
that lacks, like, to me, a relationship that's interesting between, like, not only do I think it didn't show motivations, I feel like his relationship to Fred Hampton wasn't really that developed either. I didn't feel like they really connected in a way that I think is interesting and an informant story. You know, like the story of like Gangs of New York, where Leonardo DiCaprio hates this guy, but also feels a fatherly influence from him. I didn't see this relationship develop. So I guess ultimately when you don't have, to me, what's most important in movies is a character psychology and the relationship to each other. So I love a lot of things about this movie, but I guess ultimately it left me a little like lacking because there was no character to kind of like think about.
Yeah, well, I was just considering the fact that we're going to bump into the people that made it. So
there's great. Oh yeah, yeah.
But no, I did really enjoy watching it, and I was like, oh, this is really fun, and I thought it was well done. I do think if they cut the FBI scenes out and then obviously got a little more into the motivation of this guy. And like I said, it does feel like a disservice. And ultimately, the guy committed suicide. So obviously, he was like really fucking torn and gripped, and they didn't do such a great job of depicting that.
That's why I thought it'd be interesting if it set it from him in getting interviewed that day, and then it could end with him like committing suicide. You know, because he commit suicide kind of when that came out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like that to me would be interesting. Like see a little of his present life. Like by the end when they say he commits suicide, I'm like, where is that in the movie? Like,
right.
Where to the point where like when they just hand him the money at the end, it almost just looks like they're just treating him like a Judas figure, but they're not really getting into his head in any way. You know what I mean? You just don't know what he feels about anything. And I did think that left me lacking. But that being said, the acting is great. It's amazingly well directed and very entertaining.
Yeah, and also, I mean, and this isn't such a great praise, but it will not bum me out if it wins Academy Awards, as opposed to like One Night in Miami. If it was nominated for Best Picture, I'd be like, "This is an outrage! Like, I'm gonna stop watching movies because I have to kill myself now."
I mean, it'll most certainly be nominated for Best Picture. You know,
Judas and the Black Messiah.
No, both of them.
I don't know about One Night in Miami. I would 100%.
Hope
it's not on that many top 10 lists, is it?
Really? No. Yeah, it is.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I guess. I don't know. Did it get nominated for Golden Globes? That's usually like a precursor, but I haven't looked. But
yeah.
All
right, let's get to the one movie we really like. The movie without any black people.
But it has a brown person.
It has a brown person. Yeah.
Yeah, the main character. So we're good.
And people. I have some issues with this movie too, but I do want to talk about this movie. So much of it blew me away. But yeah, if you want to talk, like,
I'll just say that first of all, this has been
Sound of Metal. We're talking about Sound of Metal.
Sound of Metal. It's been the longest since I've watched this movie. However you say that sentence properly. The most time has passed since I've watched this movie, so it'll be hard to remember. But I love this movie. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And as you talked about in One Night in Miami, you never get lost in the movie. This movie immediately,
the opposite.
I mean, right from the get-go, I was in it fully, and I'm an anxiety sufferer. I'm in recovery, and I have tinnitus.
You have.
So that was like triggering. Like any movie that has like the.
Dude,
I have bad tinnitus.
If he was a fucking comedian, that would have been it. That would have been like.
I mean, it was almost my story.
He's a road act.
Yes, exactly. Jeez. This movie again. Fantastic performances and just really nailed the role of recovering addict and a sponsor and all these things. So you go off, but I thought this movie was fantastic and probably the best movie I saw this year.
Best movie I've seen this year. I think one of the things that I was just not ready for is, if you don't know the movie, it's about a drummer in a metal band who goes deaf. And what I was not ready for is it opens as like kind of like your typical independent film, you know. He's just on the road. It seems pretty minimal, you know? It doesn't seem like a movie that's going to have a lot of effects. You know what I mean? It seems like a very bare movie. And then he starts getting deaf, and the movie actually shows his sound lowering from his perspective. And it takes you into his head. And it's the opposite of One Night in Miami. It's a visceral experience where you feel like you're going deaf. And for us, me and Joe, who are big anxiety sufferers, I don't know about you, for me, it felt so similar to a panic attack.
And again, with like tinnitus, like that's what I've had, where I wake up in the morning and that's what my head sounds like. So it was particularly.
I mean, how long does tinnitus? I get tinnitus sometimes, but how long does it last for you? I get it for like 20 seconds or something.
Oh, I have it 100% of the time. I have to sleep with a noise machine, and I
have it right now.
Well, I have you in my ears, so
I'm worse than tinnitus, so I drown out the tinnitus.
Yeah, exactly. I would kill for ringing. I'd kill for your phone to ring, and it was an emergency. You had to leave.
Well, yeah. I mean, it is to me like when he's going deaf and he's also trying to hide it, and he's just kind of nodding, and people don't realize what he's going through. To me, it's so much like a panic attack where everything seems normal on the surface, but it's just internal chaos. And the way he tries to deny it. The way he's trying to like blow his ears out, it is so terrifying and so powerful. And then the movie becomes this beautiful story of acceptance where life is really unfair and fucked up shit happens, but like the hope of basically not running from those things, but accepting them, you know?
Yes. And and this is something that I deal with watching movies, is there's almost no great depictions of recovery in film, of like AA meetings or NA meetings or whatever kind of meetings. This one really nails like the relationship between like a sponsor and a
Well,
meeting.
it's the sponsor's just such a classic sponsor act. You know what I mean? He just feels so much like that guy, you know?
Yeah,
He
he
know,
nails it.
he knows the language, he has the warmth, but the warmth plus the what do you call it? Strictness, you know?
Yes,
And that actor is just fucking incredible. Um,
absolutely.
and if you haven't seen the movie, he's going deaf and he's in a deaf community, but he wants to get an operation so he can hear again. And then eventually he gets it, and it's an even it's not basically how he envisioned it. You know what I mean? Basically, and then his big moment at the end is removing it, going back to the deaf world he's become part of, which is so much a parable for everything about obviously anxiety. I mean, obviously it's much worse than anxiety because it's deafness, I guess. But like,
But
but
it's
it,
not that different.
yeah, it is similar in the sense that like, at least for me, when I'm fighting anxiety, I think a big part of it is I wish I could just never have anxiety. And that's the delusion. Like you have to accept that you'll always be an anxious person.
Exactly. And that's why it was so good. And like you said at the beginning, when he's in the van or whatever it is, RV with his partner and trying to explain, and she's making phone calls. I feel like I have lived that experience again, not being deaf. But when you're having anxiety, panic attack, hypochondria, nobody can even kind of wrap their head around what you're going through
They
unless they
don't,
deal with it too.
and
And you're
that
like,
makes
fuck you, I'm deaf. And he's like, I'm deaf. I can't fucking, and I've had that feeling with a panic attack or anxiety. I'm like, whatever you're saying doesn't make any, it doesn't matter to me. I don't give a fuck. I'm
you
dealing with
can't
this thing.
that and it makes you feel so disconnected and it makes you feel so alone. And the movie kind of captured something that I hadn't seen captured, which is the aloneness of an ailment. The
Right.
aloneness where everyone else is kind of normal and you're alone and you look normal on the surface, but you can't fucking hear. And it just showed when I have panic, I feel so removed from everyone. I feel like I'm trapped in my head. And he is so in that situation. And so it captures one of the more terrifying parts of life is that kind of disconnection. But then it also deals with the ability to accept it, you know, and be around people who it is to me, it's such a parable for recovery and any kind of anxiety where but you be around the people who also deal with it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like a visceral experience, like you said, and just so touching. And I thought the ending was tremendous too. I mean, like Sarah, like couldn't stop crying at the end of this movie. It was so tragic and beautiful, so layered, and just I don't even know what else to say about it other than just a powerful film. And I feel like these days, I always say this: you only get 1 to 3 really great movies. The way our movie system works these days, and I thought this was one of them. By the way, The Assistant is another movie that I thought was fantastic, and that's a movie about Me Too that is like to me pitch perfect about the nuance of it. Did you see that movie?
Yeah, I hated it. But back to
Wow, that is shocking to me.
back to Sound of
Did you really?
yeah, yeah, but I don't know.
I cannot even believe that. That is like shocking to me. I imagine our fans, you'll get the fans on your side on that one. They'll hate me. I'll be a cuck liberal. I mean, we'll have to talk about that another time.
We'll talk about that another time.
I thought that movie was like unbelievable.
I really like the morning show, and that's about Me Too. Just I'm not all, you know, but anyway. So so I don't know who I'm like defending myself for right now.
I mean, I want to have this discussion. I can't even believe that you didn't like that movie.
We'll talk about it another time. But like so Sound of Metal, yeah, I do think yeah, I think it's that's the reason. You only get a couple great movies a year. It's true. But there's always what's exciting, even on the shittiest years, there's always 1 or 2 movies that are just so special to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's exciting that each year there's gonna be something you love, you know? But Sound of Metal, I do think ultimately maybe like I would have liked to see a couple more connections on the community. Like I feel like they kind of maybe didn't show his relationship. They kind of glossed over it a lot of montages.
Yes, I agree with that. I would have liked to have seen the sponsor more.
And I think the sponsor, as great as an actor as he was, I would have liked to see him more as a character outside of just purely being a sponsor. And I think the movie kind of ends with him just purely because he is a sponsor, but he's a human being. And this guy's a human being. I would have liked to see the relationship more as human beings while trying to wear the mask of sponsor and, you know, guest or whatever, sponsee. But instead, by the end, I think he ultimately did just come off as a sponsor. You know what I mean? So I felt like it lacked a little in that sense, you know.
Yeah, and I felt like there actually could have been more in the substance abuse thing. It kind of
Yes.
took over with just the deafness and left out quite a bit of that, which would have been even more challenging, honestly.
And then it kind of becomes a point where you're like, well, he ends up, you assume he's going to go back to the deaf community and you understand it. But at the same time, just because you showed montages, you don't really understand the relationships he's built there, you know? So it becomes almost like more of a symbol than a real place. So yeah, once again, I think it still suffers a little from, I think all these movies doesn't have the most, I think the greatest movies have really developed relationships between at least two characters, you know? And I think it doesn't fully have that, but it's so powerful viscerally, and the main actor is so great, and all the acting is so great, and it's just such a powerful story. It still works despite those limitations. Though I do think it could have even been even greater if it dealt with those.
But I thought his relationship with his lady was also great, and then
So
when they
real, yeah.
reconvened was so tragic and so real and so
To me, it's like
beautiful and
to,
touching.
to me the machine he gets, the surgery, not machine surgery, feels so much like me taking antidepressants, where it's like I have anxiety and I want to do this thing to change me. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping it can. I'm not saying pills aren't. I'm on pills, and I'm not saying pills are. But if you need pills, you need pills. Obviously, everyone who's ever committed suicide needed medication, so you can't like be against medication. But sometimes I have this dream of the medication just ridding me of anxiety,
Yes, of course.
and it's not going to do that. And to him, I think he thought this operation could just bring it back. But to me, the movie is so Buddhist in the sense that it's like the things you lost, you lost. You can't get them back. You know what I mean? And you have to accept that loss. You know what I mean? You have to accept that loss.
Exactly. And wherever you go, there you are. As they say, you still have to live with yourself and your own thoughts. And I have the same feeling. I just was dealing with this last week. I talked about it on Mindful Metal Jack and a couple other places, I guess. But I've been feeling like through meditation and my own support groups that I'm like, oh man, I think I'm fucking like cured. And then I went to Ecuador and dealt with all these high stress issues and was having all kinds of anxiety and hypochondria. And it's that same feeling of no one knows what I'm dealing with. Don't even try to fucking make me feel better. And B, of like, oh, I thought I had won. I thought I had beaten it. And there is no beating it. It's all acceptance, which is the ultimate lesson of all of these things, of meditation, of Buddhism, and of sobriety. It's all about acceptance.
Which the movie really is so much. Yeah, the movie is, I guess it just deals with things we care so much about too, which is it's acceptance, but it's also like the wisdom that comes through suffering.
Yes.
And that wisdom is like, to me, as awful as anxiety is, I think if tackling anxiety is also similar to tackling the meaning of existence. You know what I mean? I think they're like the same thing, you know?
yeah, and I would also add that it's also about willingness and what are you willing to do and what are you willing to accept.
Yeah.
So and that's what life is about, is willingness and acceptance.
And by the end, he takes it off and he has that still moment, the only place you can find the kingdom of God. And yeah, it's an incredible experience. Yeah, I mean, you know, um, I think it's probably a little too hard. It's a little too judgmental on the people who want to get the surgery. You know what I mean? Because
that was something I thought was weird in the film, was like when his sponsor guy was like too mean. I thought he's like, you're not one of us anymore. He was almost like, fuck you.
It's too mean. And if they would have shown his actual person more, it could have made more sense. Like maybe there really is, but because he never really broke free from just a sponsor role, he kind of just thought this is kind of a bad sponsor at this point. You know what I mean?
Exactly. He kind of was like, I got to turn my back on you, Bal.
But it was,
like it felt like Paulie.
yeah.
You know, at the end, where he was like, all right, you're dead to me.
But he felt like he was following the sponsor guidelines. So it felt like, well, that's a really crazy rule. But like, you know what I mean? But like if they would have developed his character more and shown maybe how he's breaking free from the sponsor mask, which is what the character is, and maybe he's personally just hates that shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And maybe he couldn't afford it, or you know what I mean? Maybe there's some real, I would have liked to see some personal issues with him that led him to that decision to like be so angry at him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that being said, it's just a fucking powerful story about anxiety and meditation and self-acceptance and the wisdom, the clarity that can come from suffering, you know?
and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Yeah.
Keep coming back. It works if you work it. But all right. Well, that was I think that was great. I don't know if anyone saw any of these movies, so no one might be watching. Hopefully they watched them. We spoiled 100% of these movies. So
you know, you don't have to watch. I mean, I'd like you to watch the podcast, the video, whatever webisode. I'd like you to watch it right away. But if you want to watch the movies first, I guess if you've got,
we should say this at the top, not at the end. All right, now go back and watch these movies. But maybe it's entertaining anyways. Maybe they don't. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we fucked up. Maybe we're bad people. But we'll have to accept that also. Now let's rank the film. I think this will be pretty easy. I can do yours. Obviously, One Night in Miami is 4.
It's like 12. I throw other movies and put the assistant on top of it.
All right. So that one, I'm just dying to have that conversation. Can you give me a hint as to what you didn't like about the assistant? Okay, so it's not that simple then, because you're not immediately like bang, bang, bang. So it sounds like there's some nuance to it.
No, there's nuance to it, and honestly, everyone's told me I'm wrong, so I'm like thinking like maybe I got to rewatch it again. But
yeah, throw me on that list.
I don't like.
I mean, you want a nuanced Me Too movie? I mean, that feels like it.
I mean, like the most evil guy ever, like in what? Just the fact that she's like culpable, kind of, or she doesn't do anything.
Well, there's the amazing scene where she goes to HR, and that guy doesn't even feel evil. Like he makes great point. He out debates her in a way that you're like, wow, he's making great points. And that's
like a clear villain.
He's villainous, but he's making great points.
He does it the opposite of Martin Sheen. He actually thinks he's being a good guy, which is how human psychology works.
And he's making points that are hard to debate against. But now we're just adding a movie to talk about it.
But we'll do that soon, and also the Woody Allen doc.
Oh God. That's when I get canceled. It's when I'm like, fuck you. I love Woody. She's a whore. No, it's challenging. But okay, so obviously One Night in Miami is 4 for you, and then Promising a Young Woman is 3, and then Judas and the Black Priest or whatever it's called is 2, and then Sound of Anal is number 1.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yes.
Do you like Promising Young Woman better than Judas?
I was so annoyed by Promising Young Woman the whole time, but I guess the ending was kind of like it made me feel something. And no, that's the right order.
Yeah, I might flip Promising Young Woman, Judas. I'll have to watch them again. Like I said, it takes me a couple times to watch. I might watch Promising Young Woman a second time and be like, oh my God, what am I talking about? This is horrible.
Yeah, so yours is obviously Sound of Metal. I mean, last is One Night in Miami, and then you're the same list, right? It's the same list.
I would say the same, probably, yeah. I'll ultimately.
Yeah.
But I'll have to watch 2 and 3 again at some point.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, And you know, I don't think we came off as racist or anything. I mean, like, I get the point is like you're allowed to criticize movies without looking racist. That's the whole fucking point.
Yeah, to me, it's the opposite of racist. It's
the opposite.
Where you're trashing, this movie as much as we're trashing all these other movies that we've trashed.
Right, treating people differently isn't that racist? Or is that now the new racist? You got to treat them differently. You got to remind everyone. It's just bonkers,
No, it's silly. It's what do you call it? Condescending. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't want to like just show that I'm not racist by listing some movies about black people that I love, but here we go. Just Precious, amazing movie, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Eve's Bayou, Get Out, deserved all the praise in the world. So fuck you. I'm not racist. These critics are all pussies. You're allowed to objectively look at movies. You're being condescending, but I know it's not the critics' fault because your fucking newspapers will betray you right every second. And Carey Mulligan, you're doing a disservice when you're demanding a critic to apologize for a review. That's a disservice, and you shouldn't feel good about the fact that the newspaper had to apologize. That's not right. Like, you should let critics say their opinion without being accused,
I want to add, Carey Mulligan, thank you for watching this. I didn't realize you were a fan. I mean, this is like, I'm like stunned. I loved Inside Llewyn Davis. Was amazing. I thought you were.
I probably should have told you she was watching. You might have maybe not said as much.
Yeah, no, and I
you're like, she's too old.
Yeah, you look young.
Also, I think she's hotter than Margot Robbie. So how can I be sexist? I like that old bitch over fucking Margot Robbie.
Yeah, I think it's Margot Robbie and or Margot. I'm surprised you don't say Margot.
I'm Carey Mulligan number 1. She's like one of my top. Oh, wait, this
Number
is
one is
sexist
crazy.
too. This is
Carrie
sexist.
Mulligan, by the way, is like, I mean, now we're just going off the rails, but like, Carrie Mulligan is like, you could like get her. She's like obtainable. Like, are you insane? She's beautiful, but
What are you
like,
crazy?
no, she's beautiful. You couldn't, but I'm saying you, the audience, you, the fans, could get her. I mean, like, my wife is more attractive than Carrie Mulligan. Come on. I mean, like,
no, Sarah's very attractive, but no offense. But if you were married, I mean, I would kill you. I mean, kill you if you were married to Carrie Mulligan. Just to
Margot Robbie in Wolf of Wall Street is like hotter than I'd throw my fucking wedding album in the trash to fuck Margot Robbie.
She is so unattainable. I think I've instinctually, like, my body won't even let me feel attracted to her. It's like watching someone CGI'd.
But that's what's happening with your opinions. That's why you think Carrie Mulligan's hot. You're adjusting to people that you could obtain.
But once I've done that, they're the highest attainment.
I
don't, but to the point where I can't attain them because they're so beautiful.
Because like, I feel like if you keep going in like 3 weeks, you're gonna be like, oh, Phyllis Diller is like number one. I'm like, come on, get it together.
I'm trying to convince myself. I mean, otherwise I'll fucking never get laid. But I do love how it's also like, I'm not sexist. I totally fuck Carrie Mulligan.
I know that's a hilarious case.
We're being ironic.
We're one step away from like, I'm not racist. I love the NBA. I fucking love hoops, baby.
Carrie Mulligan, I think you were totally right for the role. I jacked off to you 12 times, and I think you're totally hot. That's the thing. They got mad because she thought, like, you're not supposed to call women hot or not hot, I guess. Well, what can you call them? Smart?
I don't get it. Well, they're certainly not that.
Right. Anyway.
All right, we got to go.
All right, we got to go. Thank you all so much for listening. Any plugs or anything?
Oh, yeah. Side Splitters, March 18th through the 20th. I'm going to be down there with Sarah and possibly another special guest. So come out there and get tickets and get them early, for God's sakes. And then March 24th, I'm back in Royersford, Pennsylvania. And make sure go subscribe to the YouTube right now.
Yeah. Go subscribe
and by the way, I got like $80 for you soon. I got to figure out how to get paid. I don't know how to fill out the thing.
Oh, from this?
Yeah, we're getting there. We did 9 episodes and we've made like $100 each.
You've revealed our finances. Oh, everyone's gonna feel like so depressed.
No, we're fucked. It's embarrassing. We're making like $6 an episode.
Give a Patreon. Venmo us money. But anyway, so yeah, I'm not doing it. I don't have anything. I'm done with my solo show for a little bit, and I'll probably have some. I'll probably have some things on Zoom and what. Yeah, I don't have any. No, nothing. So yeah, I'll be performing around town. Oh, I'll be at Royersville.
Royersford.
Royersford.
Oh, I think you meant with me, and I was like, shit, I don't even remember booking.
No, I'm co-headlining.
Oh, nice. With who?
Me and Palufo.
Oh, nice.
April
Boy, Steve
1st.
Must be bummed out.
Right up, April 1st. So come see me and Caitlin at Royersford.
Yeah, that's gonna be a killer show.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody. I'm hitting
Thank
stop.
you.